Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of every MLB team's 2022 Breakout Star, this time with every National League team. I hope you guys enjoyed my picks for the American League, but let's not waste too much time here and dive right in with the National League East, starting with the Washington Nationals. The Nationals are steering right into their rebuild, one that I think is necessary to the long-term success of the club. They acquired key prospects at last year's deadline, including studs in Keibert Ruiz and Josiah Gray, but one unheralded youngster they also brought in that I'll be keeping my eye on is Lane Thomas. Thomas, who came over from St. Louis in the John Lester trade, thrived once given everyday playing time. He did a little bit of everything atop the Nationals lineup with a sprint speed in the 93rd percentile and serviceable defense in center field. The spotlight will be on the former Dodgers top prospects, but I expect Thomas to build off his solid second half in 2022, where he had a 364 OBP and 133 OPS+. The Miami Marlins have swung some great deals in the past year. The Sandy Alcantara extension, swiping Jacob Stallings from the Pirates, and a more underrated move in my opinion, grabbing Brian De La Cruz from the Astros at last year's trade deadline for Yimi Garcia. De La Cruz got decent playing time in the second half last season and did well on both sides of the ball. New additions Jorge Soler and Avisail Garcia will push him out of an everyday starter role, but if he rakes like he did last year, Miami would be foolish not to try and find him at bats more often than not. De La Cruz could end up being the best fourth outfielder in the league for all we know. He had a 113 OPS+ and 14 extra base hits in a limited sample size last season. The Phillies are going to rake in 2022 at the expense of what could be the worst defensive team ever assembled in baseball history. Their current starting lineup has a combined negative 28 outs above average between them, one of the worst metrics of range by a team ever. One guy that could help alleviate that is top prospect Bryson Stott. The shortstop could usurp Didi Gregorius this season, hopefully defeating the recent narrative of Phillies prospects not panning out. Stott made 7 errors in 97 games at shortstop in the minors last year and would likely be a defensive improvement over Didi, not to mention his solid offensive numbers, including 26 doubles and 16 home runs. I'd be shocked if Stott doesn't get a ton of looks this year in Philly. The New York Mets are in pitcher's paradise right now with the trio of Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, and Chris Bassett in their starting rotation. But there's one arm that many fans are sleeping on that could prove to be yet another secret weapon for this team, and that's Tylor Megill. If you're a fan of this channel, you've probably seen my video on Megill that outlines a special developmental path for him. Megill has displayed eerie similarity to a young Jacob deGrom in the spin and movement of his fastball and changeup, and before exceeding his innings limit last year, Megill was solid for the Mets down the stretch, with a remarkable 2.04 ERA in his first 7 games started. If he breaks camp as a starter this year, he could blossom. Last up are the Braves, who I think will repeat as NL East champions. It was difficult to pick a breakout player for the Braves since most of their starting players are established talent or new free agent signings. Either way, the Braves core is young, but one of the last remaining unproven pieces is Tucker Davidson. Most fans know Davidson for randomly getting a World Series start last year, but there's more to him than just that. Davidson was solid in a small sample size last season and looks to make the Braves rotation as the anchor in 2022. He'll have plenty of competition, but one thing turning in his favor is his slider, which registered a -3 run value and 118 batting average against. Even if he turns into a lefty specialist out of the bullpen, Davidson will be a sneaky weapon for Atlanta this year. Now over to the National League Central. There's not a lot to get excited about in Cincinnati these days. Nick Castellanos, Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez, Sonny Gray, and Amir Garrett have all left town, leaving plenty of opportunity for emerging youngsters in the Reds system, including their most prized prospect in Hunter Greene. Greene's debut has been long anticipated ever since he was drafted 2nd overall in 2017. He's been a consensus top 30 prospect in baseball ever since, and for good reason. Greene frequently touches 100 miles per hour on his fastball, peaking at around 102 miles per hour. He also pitched well between AA and AAA last year with a 3.30 ERA over 100 innings, to go along with 139 strikeouts. It'd be an absolute shock to most fans if Greene didn't start the year in the Reds rotation, especially considering the torrid spring training he's been having. The Pittsburgh Pirates have some interesting pieces for this season in guys like O'Neal Cruz and Ronzi Contreras, but my breakout pick for them is someone who's already been with the club for a decent bit at this point, and that's Mitch Keller. The former second rounder is someone that's struggled so far in the big leagues but has apparently made big strides in the offseason. Keller has seen jumps of at least 3 miles per hour on all of his pitches in spring training, most notably his fastball jumping from 93 to 97 miles per hour on average. Even this minor tick has changed Keller's entire outlook, as he's had a terrific spring. Look for this 25-year-old to take a considerable step forward for the Pirates this season. I've talked about about Cubs players a decent bit in my recent videos, with one of my pieces covering the emergence of their new talented core made up of minor league journeymen. The Cubs lineup will lean heavily on the likes of Frank Schwindel and Patrick Wisdom, but arguably the most important bat added to the fold is Seiya Suzuki. I covered Suzuki extensively in another video that I highly recommend you go check out, but there's a lot of upside to his record-setting deal with the Cubs. In my honest opinion, Suzuki has 5-tool potential, gold glove capability, and a real shot at a 2020 season if he can put all the pieces together. As we know by now though, Japanese players have a tough time transitioning well to MLB difficulty, especially position players, so we'll see how things turn out in year 1. Up next are the Cardinals, who had mostly a quiet offseason. Still, much of the same cast that reached the playoffs last year are returning, with some set to receive a more extended stay at the big league level this time around. Enter Edmundo Sosa. He was a bench piece behind Paul DeJong in the first half of the season, but he'd eventually win the job in August, as the Cardinals wanted to prioritize defense since DeJong's offense had completely evaporated. From August 10th through the end of the season, Sosa was excelling on both sides of the ball, with a .303 batting average, 10 extra base hits, and an .837 OPS over 40 games. With a full season's reps this year, Edmundo Sosa could launch himself into a higher tier of shortstops with his fantastic on-base numbers and elite defensive metrics. Last up in the Central are the Milwaukee Brewers, who seem to grow great pitching on trees. With the rotation boasting Corbin Burnes, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, and Adrian Hauser already, it's hard to believe that there's more talent behind those guys. Milwaukee developed all of these guys by sticking them in the bullpen first, and the latest in this developmental path is Aaron Ashby. Ashby put up solid numbers last year out of the bullpen, but it looks like he may take the leap to the starting rotation in 2022. While his role still remains uncertain, Ashby has solid peripherals, including a fastball velocity in the 90th percentile of all pitchers, as well as the third lowest batting average against of any pitch in 2021, with his slider at a .077 batting average, trailing only Blake Treinen's slider and Corbin Burns' curveball. Look for Ashby to become the anchor of Milwaukee's staff this year. Now over to the National League West. Aside from Ketel Marte's inexplicable extension, the Diamondbacks don't have a ton going on these days. One piece of their 2022 team that definitely intrigues me though is Dan Straley. This might be a name you remember from long ago, but he's still kicking around in baseball, believe it or not. After a serviceable but mostly unsuccessful 9-year stint in MLB, Dan Straley went overseas to the KBO to hone his craft. He increased his spin rates and ground ball rates while in Korea and turned in a pair of fantastic seasons. From 2020 to 2021, he had 62 games started with a 3.22 ERA and 1.19 whip. Straley hopes to break camp with this lowly Arizona team and possibly squeeze his way into a spot with the rotation. Looking at their roster right now, it's looking very possible. He may not put up his KBO numbers, but Straley still has plenty to give. I know it's been said a bunch, but the Rockies just confuse the hell out of me. Their roster doesn't jump off the page much at all, with most of their offseason changes coming through position players for some reason. One player who deserves a shot at playing regularly for this team is Connor Joe. Joe has some great numbers in a limited 2021 sample size, including 17 extra base hits and a 117 OPS+. However, he'll likely get boxed out by new additions, but he's been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball in spring training this year. He also had a max exit velocity in the 89th percentile of all MLB hitters last season and sported an incredible 12.3 walk percentage as well. While we can't change what the Rockies did this offseason, we can hope that they give Joe the playing time he's earned. Next up are the San Francisco Giants, who shocked everyone last season by usurping the Dodgers for the National League West crown, and though their rotation appears more bolstered than last year, their lineup will need some new faces to step things up, specifically Joey Bart. With Buster Posey retired, the catching reins will fall completely to Bart and Curt Casali this season. Bart's been a highly touted prospect for San Francisco for a while now, after getting drafted 2nd overall in 2018, but he's yet to pan out at the big league level. But with the future Hall of Famer Posey out of the way, Joey Bart will finally get his first full season in MLB, and even if the transition isn't seamless, expect Bart to put up solid slugging numbers and average defensive metrics, which is really all you can ask for him in his first full season. San Diego. We don't have to talk about what the Padres did last year. I'm sure their fans have no interest in that. It's a new season with a new outlook, and this San Diego squad is still incredibly talented, especially their rotation. The 5th spot in their stacked rotation is a toss-up between Chris Paddock, Mackenzie Gore, Ryan Weathers, and my personal pick, Nick Martinez. Outside of Luke Voit, Nick Martinez was the Padres' other notable offseason addition. Similar to Straley, Martinez had a brief unsuccessful stint in MLB for 4 years before going overseas to improve himself. He dominated over 4 solid seasons in Japan with over 378 innings and a 3.02 ERA. He saw serious upticks in his fastball and changeup velocities, and he parlayed his success into a 4-year, $25 million contract, which shocked many people, including me. I expect him to win that 5th starter job for the Padres and turn in a solid season this year. And finally, the last team up is the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are so stupidly talented that any newcomers or unproven players likely won't sniff an inch of substantial playing time. For that reason, I'm gonna have to go with someone established, and that's Tony Gonzalon. Gonzalon suddenly finds himself as the number 4 starter of a World Series contending squad. He's proven himself capable in the past with 142 innings in his career with a 2.85 ERA and 1.09 WHIP to go along with 148 strikeouts. But with the added pressure as well as the opportunity for his first full season ever, I'm excited to see what Tony Gonzalon does over a full 162. And there it is. Those are all 30 of my breakout picks for each MLB team. I am exhausted and I can't wait to look so stupid at the end of the year when I only get like 3 of these right. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for the recent outpouring of support since the end of the lockout. It's been a dream come true, and I'm so excited to see where the channel goes this year. And now let's wrap up today's video with a word from today's sponsor, DraftKings. College basketball fans, join the action on the court during the biggest tournament of the year with the DraftKings Sportsbook. Turn your team's victory into your own big win. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. It's that simple. If they win, you win. If you're not into college basketball, definitely place some baseball bets as well. I just placed mine for player futures and some awards. I have some hot takes in there, but it's harmless to sprinkle some money on some pretty good odds. So my personal recommendation to you is to check out Sandy Alcantara for the NL Cy Young. I talked about that in another video, but I think that's a surefire bet to win you a lot of money. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still join the college hoops and baseball action with DraftKings pools. Make sure you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code JOMBOY. Bet $5 on any college hoops team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If they win, you win with promo code JOMBOY this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. Age 21 and over, restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Thanks for watching today's video. I'll see you guys next time.